Attachment theory. So Lacan wrote Le Stade du Miroir in 34, 36, and here's the way I'll explain it. When you hold a baby up to a mirror, it's like Stevie Wonder. Why is that? Because it has no self, right? So a baby thinks it's at one with the mother's breast, and I'll even go one step further because this will pique some of your interest. There was a psychologist named Yanov who had a place on Abbot Kinney Boulevard called the Primal Institute or Primal, the book's called, I think, Primal Scream, Primal Therapy. And he said, the first time you take your baby and put it down in its own little place and say, we'll be back in 8 hours, we're going to sleep now. And the baby's nonverbal, so the baby doesn't understand, but the baby sees you walk away. The baby thinks, you're killing me. And that is the primal abandonment wound, right? That is your core wound that you will be left to die. Now, cut to 35 years later, your husband cheats on you, your boss fires you, somebody doesn't return a phone call, and you're not experiencing what's going on in the present moment. It's a reopening of your core wound. It's a reopening of your primal abandonment wound. So that's why attachment theory, and a reason I'll go into in a second, is so important to know, right? So John Bowlby in London, early 60s, noticed that babies became distressed when their mom was absent. Go figure, right? And then in 1969, Mary Ainsworth conducted The Strange Situation, where a mother and a baby went into a room, the mother left, and then either one of four things happened. Actually, I'm so sorry, I misspoke. One of three things happened. The mother came back into the room and the baby securely attached, and there was no problem. Like, the child knew that the mother would not put it in harm's way. So she just was cool. That was in 33% of the cases. And then the rest of the cases was some form of insecure attachment, reattachment. So the mother would leave, the baby would freak out, cry itself out. I make a joke and I say, my parents had the Nietzschean school of child rearing rather. They, what doesn't kill it makes it stronger. So when people say, let the baby cry itself out, and, we think, oh my God, the baby thinks, I'm dying. It's so horrific. Parenting is the most difficult thing in the world, and you have to make a decision on when to comfort and coddle your child and when it has to learn. But I think that the way we individuate children in our culture is super abrupt, and it has a whole array of ramifications later in life, like addiction and all sorts of mental illness. And hopefully at some point in time, we will take a look really at what we're trying to do by making these babies productive members of society, and maybe make them some tweaks so that they can actually have some childhood time and play, rather than just trying to make them into workers, which is what our school system is designed to do. Sorry for that tangent. Coming back in. Mary Ainsworth. So the baby would cry itself out, and the mother would come back in, and the baby would be like this. Well, screw you. You left, and it hurt. And if I reattach, it's just going to happen again. So I'm not going to reattach. Right. And so that's avoidant or indifferent, And then the third type was ambivalent. The mother came back into the room. The baby didn't know what to do. She kind of went into the mom's arms, but then kind of looked around, And then The last type was disorganized. And I sat with Sue Johnson, and she said that she did think that depression and anxiety did come from any type of insecure attachment. But what I've noticed in my psychology practice for the past 15 years is that there's a correlation between disorganized attachment as children and then borderline personality disorder. So that's what I would say, because I don't subscribe to the DSM. I think that borderline personality disorder is just an extreme reaction. You know, the typical thing is you tell someone, "Hey, I'm sorry, I can't make lunch tomorrow," and they say, "Fine, I'll just go kill myself," and you're like, where did that come from, right? It's an extreme reaction. And this is, I believe it correlates, or it starts early, and it manifests if you see disorganized attachment in a child. So this shows up later in life in how you think of yourself and how you think of other people and whether you can connect securely with people. All right. Now, here's how this relates to you. There's a tape that I listened to called Marriage is the Path to Wholeness by Harville Hendrix. And he says that the subconscious purpose of marriage in America is to enable us to complete our childhoods. Our parents had deficits. Those deficits wounded us. Those wounds became defense mechanisms. And those defense mechanisms became our personalities. And we'll always be attracted to people with whom we can replicate the dynamics of our primary caregivers. And then Marianne Williamson says, if your partner can't replicate them, you'll train them to. So, when I have couples in the office all the time, I'm like, this fight is not about the toothpaste cap on the toothpaste container, who put gas in the car, who forgot to wash the clothing. Like, this fight is the wounded child in you feeling comfortable enough to try to excise some old demons, right? So just take that possibility on that your paradigm, the way you think the world is operating, was greatly influenced by the individuation process that you went through the first couple of years of your life, right? And now it is affecting how you show up. And then Alice Miller wrote the beautiful book, Drama of the Gifted Child. And I talk about it a lot in my book, styles of parenting after World War II, and then the Cold War and the fear that was in our parents of Hitler coming back again, and how children were objectified. There was that phrase, children are meant to be seen and not heard. And, we were essentially appendages of our parents, and we had to make them proud by going to Ivy League schools and becoming doctors and all of this crazy stuff. And now we have another wave of parenting, and you have millennials and Gen Zs, and we enable them. I believe, as I said, I'm 54. We enable our children because we don't want them to hate us the way we hate the way our parents oppressed us and withheld positive reinforcement and love and things like that. So again, this is all tied into your understanding of how the universe is operating. Is it a safe place? Can you lean in and survive? Or is someone going to stab you in the back if you're too vulnerable? So what does this add up to? On the outside, you have a false self, a persona, a facade. And then on the inside, you have negative self-talk, and you have the imposter syndrome, right? It's ubiquitous, I would say, in our culture because of this not good enough. And the only other extreme is narcissism. So I'm not saying, you're going to die from the imposter syndrome. Somebody might kill you if you're a terrible narcissist. But there's a balance. You need healthy self-esteem and you need healthy self-regulation.